This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Couple of really fun games to close out week number 7 with a Monday Night Football doubleheader, and they're fun for different reasons. The first one being the Ravens, the Bucs, two very fun teams, two very good teams that can sling the rock pretty efficiently. And then Chargers and Cardinals, a pair of pesky teams that I find pretty intriguing. You know, maybe not top-end teams by any means, but they're teams that can give some good teams fights, and they're going to get head-to-head tonight. And I do think there's a player who's a bit underrated heading into that game. We're going to break down that game later on, but also talk about Ravens-Bucs, outlining my top bets and top player props for tonight, including a pair of same-game parlays that I like at FanDuel Sportsbook. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, here to break down Monday Night Football's doubleheader with the Ravens at the Bucs and the Chargers at Cardinals, outlining my top bets and player props at FanDuel Sportsbook for tonight. We'll dig into all that here in just 1 second, but first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the Covering the Spread podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow, breaking down my top bets across week number 8 in the NFL. First Look podcast coming up there. College Football Wednesday, NFL Thursday, player props Friday. All right here in the exact same place. So go search for Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe if you like what you hear. Give us a 5-star rating and review as well. And of course, you can find all these shows on the exact same YouTube page, along with our DFS show every Thursday as well. Hit subscribe for watching there. Leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate those of you who have done so already. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Arizona, Colorado, DC, Iowa, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, Vermont, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/Chat, Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's begin things here by talking about the first game of this Monday Night Football doubleheader. That is between the Ravens and the Buccaneers. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Ravens favored by 3.5 on the road. Total in this game is 49.5. And there is some potential wind in this game, currently projected at 12 miles per hour. So that does lower the total quite a bit for me. With that said, I still have it at 47.6. So despite the fact I do see some value in the under, it's not a huge edge, not one I have bet, not one I am likely to bet unless this total were to push above 50 for tonight. Then I could probably consider that. But I think that that's not one I'm super itchy to grab right now. As far as the spread goes, I've got the Ravens favored by 1.9. It's not a big edge for me. Did show some slight value in the Bucs money line earlier on this week. That's no longer there. They're plus 156 right now. I had that I wanted that when it was plus 160 or longer. So not seeing any value in the traditional markets, the Ravens and the Buccaneers for tonight. Part of the reason why I didn't take the under here is because there are a couple key injuries in here that could impact things, but also we're going to see a lot of passes in this game despite the win, because the Ravens are a very good rush defense. They rank 3rd against the rush based on number fires metrics and 27th against the pass. So that's one aspect where I think the Bucs are going to throw the ball a lot in this game. That's better for overs than for unders. But also now with the Ravens wanting to be a rush heavy team, that typically could be an issue against the Bucs. But now Vita Vea's banged up. He didn't practice Saturday with a hamstring injury, and he's questionable for tonight. Now, I saw a report this morning that he will play Vita Vea. That'd be a massive impact for the Buccaneers if he does, because it would hopefully partially keep things in check. He can't really control the Ravens entirely, but it would decrease the odds of chunk plays, increase the number of stuffs they can get and stuff like that. So if Vea can't go, it's a big downgrade for the Buccaneers. So a tiny bit of value in the under, but it's not a bet I'm really considering touching as things currently stand. I do think the Ravens rush defense, though, can help guide us toward the prop market, because when we see a situation where a team is very good against the rush and not good against the pass, it's going to allocate more volume toward the passing game. Now, this is the first game we've gotten to see with the Bucs and Rachaad White since we saw Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker go off on the Saints last week. White expected to go full in practice on Saturday, but they've already said they're going to ride the hot hand at running back. For a couple of reasons, I want to take the under on Rachaad White, 25.5 rushing yards for him as of right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. I think there is value there because there are a couple of routes to the under. He could simply not have the hot hand because Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker played very well in that game. And Rachaad White hasn't been very good as a running back thus far. And now we're putting him in a situation where he's facing a very tough defense and has more competition for that early down work. White has gone under 25.5 rushing yards twice already in 5 games, despite being the full lead back in all 5 of those games. And that's not potentially the case anymore. I do not want to go towards a rushing plus receiving market for White because I do still expect him to be the passing game back. He is a very talented pass catcher out of the backfield. But from an early down perspective, I would not be shocked at all if Rachaad White does lose a lot of work here. So the first prop for me is going to be Rachaad White under 25.5 rushing yards. I'm not taking overs on Bucky Irving or Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker not posted yet at FanDuel Sportsbook, so that's part of the reason why. But also, I think that the matchup here plays a key role. We can bet against Rachaad White, but also bet against this Tampa rush offense doing anything against this Baltimore rush defense, allowing me to take Rachaad White under 25.5 rushing yards. I'm also super intrigued by the split between Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, because look at their props at FanDuel Sportsbook, and right now, things leaning heavily towards Chris Godwin. His prop is 74.5, and Evans is at 56.5. And that does make sense because Evans missed practice on both Thursday and Friday this week, but got a limited session on Saturday, not on the injury report at all, so he's good to go. Additionally, Evans doesn't have as good of a target share this year as Godwin has. Godwin pushing 30%, whereas Evans is at 23%. But Evans has faced a lot of really tough outside cornerback matchups so far this year. So I think it's pretty understandable that his production hasn't been there yet. Even with those tougher matchups, Evans does have a 23% target share this year with 45% of the deep work. So to me, 56.5 is too low. He is more impacted by the wind than Godwin is, and I do want to keep that in mind. But to me, the split is too large between these two players. It's a script that should favor passing, so I like that Evans over 56.5 receiving yards here. I would also consider Evans for alt markets. I will say FanDuel has done a good job of pricing these, at least in my eyes. Evans to get 60 plus receiving yards, even money. He is plus 146 to get 70 plus 215 for 80 plus. So I think for me, if I'm going at Evans, I want to go with the baseline prop. Typically a player of his archetype, I go towards the alt market, but FanDuel was a step ahead of me there and prices alt markets pretty well. So couldn't quite get there on Evans, but I do like the baseline prop still. 74.5 or 56.5 for Mike Evans as a route to buy into his role, buy into a better matchup for him, and buy into, again, the fact that I think we'll see the Bucs throw the ball quite a bit here. The final prop I want to ping in this game is also on the Buccaneers side. It's on Baker Mayfield. This year, he's not been Baker Mayfield. He has been shaken Baker Mayfield. Lots of creation off schedule for Baker Mayfield, where he's gotten pushed off his spot and he's scrambled a bunch and scrambled effectively. Baker is averaging 22.7 rushing yards per game so far this year, whereas his previous high for a season was just 10.3, so more than double his previous career high. Pass attempts lead to scrambles, and scrambles are how you get to overs in this market. Baker's rushing yardage prop at FanDuel Sportsbook is 13.5 yards. Over is minus 113. Mayfield has gotten to this over in 4 out of 6 games so far. The 2 games he missed were both blowouts, one in the positive sense, one in the negative sense, and I do expect a pretty neutral script here. So Baker Mayfield over 13.5 rushing yards, honestly, might be my favorite bet in this entire game, above the White prop and above the Evans prop for tonight. I also would consider Mayfield in the anytime touchdown market. He is 6-1 right there, has already scored twice so far this year. So of the touchdown scorer props specifically, Mayfield would probably be my lean there at 6-1 for tonight. So buying to Baker Mayfield as a rusher, shaking Baker Mayfield back into our lives here with what he's been doing so far this year. So the individual props I like for tonight's game, Baker Mayfield over 13.5 rushing yards, Rachaad White over or under 25.5 rushing yards, and Mike Evans over 56.5 receiving yards, all kind of buying into the same narrative, which is why I think that we can lump them together as our top same game parlay for this game. If we decide to do that with the Evans over, the Mayfield over for rushing yards, and the White under, we're buying into the same thought process where I think the Bucs going to air things out a lot here because of how good the Ravens rush defense is. Pass attempts lead to scrambles, pass attempts lead to downfield looks for Mike Evans, and do not lead to rushing yardage for Rachaad White in a very tough matchup. That 3-leg same game parlay plus 473 at FanDuel Sportsbook as of right now. Do feel pretty good about that because all these bets do mesh well together under the same assumption where we think the Bucs decide to air things out in this game. Couldn't see anything I really liked on the Ravens side, honestly. Didn't get to any props. Thought that Derrick Henry is pretty properly priced once you account for the fact that he can get scripted out if the Ravens fall behind and things like that. The prop that interested me most was a Mark Andrews under 28.5. Found that a good game last week, but didn't run a ton of routes still. So I think if you want a Ravens prop in this one, I would go towards the Andrews under 28.5 receiving yards. But for me, all about the Bucs here. Not taking them to cover, not taking the over or under, but just buying into the assumption that the Buccaneers decide to air things out, not making a judgment on how effective they are in doing so. Let's take a look at the second game on tonight's slate. This is the Chargers at the Cardinals. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, pretty tight spread. In this one, Chargers favored by 1.5. Total is 44.5. We've seen the spread tighten throughout the entire week. The Cardinals were a lot longer than this earlier on, and their money line is now minus 102. And I do agree with that movement. I had the Cardinals favored by 0.2 points at home. Not a huge number by any means. Total of 44.6 for me. So honestly, I think the market has this one pretty properly pegged. I see no value in the baseline props for me as things stand for this one. So similar to the previous game, no baseline markets in this one for me. Injury report is a key talking point in this one for the Cardinals and the Chargers. Part of why I think we've seen the market move towards the Cardinals here is because Joey Bosa likely not going to play once again for the Chargers. Big loss to their defense. And a lot of pass catchers up in the air. Quentin Johnston, doubtful. Ladd McConkey, questionable. And then DJ Chark could be activated from IR for tonight. He is also questionable. I think that McConkey will go because he got banged up in that last game, but still played. He left in the second quarter initially, came back in, and was actually on the hands team on the final onside kick attempt by the Broncos in that game. So I think McConkey will be okay. 3 limited practices, and think he'll be good to go. And DJ Chark, I also wouldn't be shocked if he's back. I would have expected them to wait one more week on him, but with Johnston banged up and Darius Davis now also on the injury report, I think we'll see both DJ Chark and Ladd McConkey. And that's why there are no receiving props up yet for the Chargers for tonight. Again, no Joey Bosa for the Chargers either. And that does boost the Arizona side and does, again, reduce my interest in betting a side or a total in this game. The main prop I want to target in this game is going to be on the Chargers. That's in J.K. Dobbins, whose role in the first game without Gus Edwards was really, really good. And looking at the baseline numbers for Dobbins in that game, he had a 73% snap rate, 25 carries, 2 targets, and he had 5 out of 11 red zone chances for the team. That is a featured back role for J.K. Dobbins. Now, his baseline prop is very high. It is 79.5, and that did go up throughout the morning. So someone's buying into J.K. Dobbins right now, but he's still gotten over that increased number in 3 out of 5 games so far. He can bust off big plays. Both starting tackles are back for the Chargers as well. And this Cardinals defense ranks 28th against the rush. As a result of all that, rather than buying into the very high baseline prop for Dobbins, I want to go towards the alt market here. Right now, J.K. Dobbins is plus 186 to get 100 plus rushing yards against the Cardinals for tonight. And that's a pretty good number because the Chargers want to run. They should be able to do so here, and it should be via J.K. Dobbins on the ground. So J.K. Dobbins, 100 plus rushing yards, currently plus 186 at FanDuel Sportsbook. That to me is a pretty fun value. I also do think you could look towards Dobbins as being part of a solo same game parlay, buying into his role and buying into both the rushing prop with the 100 plus yards at plus 186, but also he is minus 135 to score a touchdown for tonight. I mentioned before that his red zone role is really good in that first game without Gus Edwards. He is minus 135 to score. Obviously, you're not getting a huge boost there because if Dobbins gets you 100 plus rushing yards, the odds he scores are pretty high. So FanDuel knows that. They're not going to give you a big boost as a result, but plus 252 is the number for Dobbins to get you 100 plus yards and a touchdown in this game. And I think based on the matchup, based on the health of Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, and the fact that there's no Gus Edwards, that's a pretty fun market for J.K. Dobbins. So favorite same game parlay for the Chargers and Cardinals, J.K. Dobbins, 100 plus rushing yards and anytime touchdown, plus 252 is the same game parlay on that one. I do want to look at Ladd McConkey props if he does wind up being good to go in this game. Again, no markets posted as of yet at FanDuel Sportsbook. We've not seen the final conclusion on whether McConkey will play tonight. Also, potentially no postings yet because of Chark status. Doesn't have to be activated, I believe, until 4 p.m. for today. But McConkey, in the games he's played this year, 26% overall target share, 26% of the deep targets, and 24% inside the red zone. That is a really good role. Now, I would expect Chark to earn some looks, but that's negated in part by the fact that there is no Quentin Johnston in this game. So I still want to be in on McConkey for tonight, assuming he is good to go. I think that his role is really good. Matchup is good, and we're starting to see the fruits of that good role for McConkey a bit more recently. The Cardinals are a tough team for me to read because everyone is healthy. Zay Jones likely going to be active for the first time this year as well. So with Jones being back, I wanted to bet unders on the pass catchers. But honestly, most of the pass catchers seem pretty properly priced. Marvin Harrison Jr., 54.5 receiving yards. Trey McBride, 49.5. Michael Wilson, 31.5. And Greg Dortch, 21.5. I looked at unders on Wilson, looked at unders on Dortch. I couldn't quite talk myself into those numbers, but also not looking at the overs either. I do think the one way we can fade the passing game here for the Cardinals is via Kyler Murray's passing props. Those at FanDuel Sportsbook, the yardage number from Murray, 212.5 and minus 113 on the under. Completions for Murray, under 25.5 is minus 102, and pass attempts under 31.5 is minus 134. Of those markets, I lean towards the passing yardage number because he's gone over that number just twice so far this year across 6 starts. The 2 times where Kyler went over were against the Packers, where they were in a super negative script the entire game. And the other was when he was very efficient in that game against the Rams. I don't expect him to be in a super negative script here and don't expect him to be as efficient as he was in that game. In general, the Cardinals not airing out a whole lot, which could push us towards the pass attempts under. But again, minus 135 to go under the marker 31.5 there. That's a pretty tough price for me to lay. And it's also a bit thinner for me. So I like the passing yardage number because there are 2 paths to the under for me. The one could be a lack of volume where if they're able to run the ball effectively, get a lead, things like that, they won't need to air the ball out too much. But also, they could just lack efficiency. That's the second path to an under here. The Chargers pass defense ranks 10th so far. That's despite having Bosa not out there in week number 6. So passing yardage props can cash via multiple avenues, via efficiency, a lack of efficiency, and via lack of volume. And I think that is what I want to prop in general. And we get that via the Murray under 212.5 passing yards for tonight. So my favorite bet to betting the Cardinals tonight is betting Kyler Murray under 212.5 passing yards, minus 113 at FanDuel Sportsbook. But again, the big one for me is the J.K. Dobbins potential same game parlay, but also liking him 100 plus rushing yards plus 186 and the anytime touchdown at minus 135 for tonight. That is all that we have here for today in our Monday Night Football preview of these two very fun games to close out a week number 7. Back again tomorrow. We'll take a first look at the week 8 spreads and totals of FanDuel Sportsbook and let you know where I am seeing value for week number 8. To get that as it is posted, make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts, but also check us out in our brand spanking new YouTube page. Appreciate those of you watching right now. Leave us a thumbs up there and subscribe to get notified as we go live Monday through Friday. You're talking best bets in DFS across college football and the NFL. If you got any questions for me, I am on X at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.